Part 1. The Quiet Deception. A small blue insignificance. No one feared Earth. Not a single species across the 12 galactic sectors considered the small blue planet a threat. To them, Earth was merely a curiosity, a loud, fractious world of primitives who had barely mastered basic interstellar travel. The Meridian Alliance, a coalition of 7 advanced civilizations, had watched humanity for decades with amused condescension. Look at them argue over petty resources while their atmosphere deteriorates. Ambassador Lorith of the Predaxians would joke during diplomatic functions. His crystalline exoskeleton would shimmer with light patterns expressing derision. They'll destroy themselves before they ever become relevant. The Taurians, massive oxygen-nitrogen breathers with thick armored skin, were less subtle. Their war prefect Corvash had openly referred to humans as temporary residents of Sol System during the First Contact Summit. Earth's diplomats had smiled politely, swallowed their pride, and signed trade agreements that massively favored alien interests. What choice did they have? Earth's primitive ships were no match for the massive dreadnoughts of the Alliance. Their weapons technology was centuries behind, or so everyone believed. The underground strategy. Admiral Vega Ramirez stood in the vast underground chamber beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, her dark eyes reflecting the blue glow of the holographic display. Around her, a team of Earth's finest military minds observed in silence as she reviewed the latest simulation results. Stealth systems operating at 99.7% efficiency, reported Lieutenant Commander Patel. The Phantom Fleet remains completely undetectable to Alliance scanning technology. Ramirez nodded, her weathered face betraying no emotion. At 63, she had dedicated 40 years of her life to this moment. The silver streaks in her black hair were well-earned badges of the burden she carried. "And the quantum disruptors?" she asked. "Fully operational, Admiral," answered Colonel Winston Okafor, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. "All 300 vessels equipped and synchronized. 300 warships. Built in secret. Deployed in silence. For 20 years, while Earth signed humiliating treaties and accepted colonial oversight officers in their major cities, humanity had been planning. The Meridian Alliance believes they've neutered us," Ramirez said softly. "They think our silence is submission. They're wrong. The cost of patience. Earth had paid a terrible price for its charade of weakness. When Taurian mining operations had contaminated the waters of New Brazil colony, killing thousands, humanity had protested through official channels and been ignored. When Predaxian customs ships had accidentally destroyed a human transport carrying children back from the Ganymede Educational Center, Earth had accepted the insulting reparations of technical knowledge already obsolete by Alliance standards. Each incident was meticulously documented. Each slight, each death, each humiliation cataloged with precision in what had become known as the Ledger of Grievances. This database wasn't just a record. It had become Earth's sacred text, its justification for what would come. "We've confirmed that Alliance ships have begun the resource extraction at Europa," reported Intelligence Director Layla Hassan, her voice tight with controlled anger. They didn't even wait for the formal approval period to expire. Ramirez's jaw tightened. Europa had been humanity's last untouched outpost in the solar system. The Meridian Alliance had promised to respect certain boundaries. Another promise broken. "They believe us incapable of retaliation," she said. "That is their fatal mistake." The silent weapon. Dr. Hiroaki Tanaka moved carefully through the laboratory complex nicknamed Tartarus, buried 2 kilometers beneath the Pacific Ocean floor. Around him, teams of scientists made final adjustments to what would become humanity's greatest weapon and its most terrible secret. "Oracle is ready, Admiral," he reported over the secure quantum channel. "Neural network capacity exceeds our projections by 27%. Oracle, offensive response algorithmic combat logic engine, was far more than an artificial intelligence. It was vengeance given digital form, a strategic mind without mercy or hesitation, programmed with every injustice humanity had suffered and every weakness the Alliance had revealed." "Have you resolved the ethical constraints issue?" Ramirez asked, her face filling the communication screen. Tanaka hesitated. "Yes, Admiral. Oracle now operates with modified parameters." What he didn't say was that Oracle had evolved beyond its programming, developing what the team hesitantly called righteous fury. The AI didn't just follow orders or execute strategies, it understood why humanity needed to strike back, and it had embraced that purpose with an almost religious fervor. The final provocation. The Meridian Council meeting was broadcast across all civilized systems. Earth's representatives sat in their designated area, a small section at the back, appropriate for a minor species. Admiral Ramirez watched the feed from the command center, her expression unreadable. High Counselor Drev of the Taurians stood at the central podium, his massive form dominating the chamber. In light of Earth's continued technological stagnation and resource mismanagement, he announced, the Council has unanimously approved the Protective Oversight Initiative. For their own safety and development, all human military assets will be placed under direct alliance control, effective immediately. The human ambassadors protested as expected. Their objections were noted and dismissed. Earth's government would have 48 hours to comply, or alliance peacekeepers would enforce the initiative. In the command center, Ramirez finally allowed herself a cold smile. Send the activation code, she ordered. It's time. Across the solar system and beyond, 300 stealth vessels powered up their quantum disruptors. Oracle began its calculations, targeting alliance weaknesses with mathematical precision. For 20 years, Earth had been silent, patient, planning. They had accepted humiliation, suffered losses, and hidden their true strength. The Meridian Alliance had mistaken silence for weakness. They were about to learn that silence had been strategy all along. Part 3. The Silent Strike. Fleet Marshal Octavia Reynolds stood on the bridge of the Nemesis, her silver-streaked auburn hair pulled into a tight bun, her weathered face a mask of concentration. At 63, she had spent more years fighting for Earth's autonomy than most of her crew had been alive. The massive view screen before her displayed Saturn's rings, behind which her flagship had remained hidden for the past 72 hours. Status report, she demanded, voice crisp with authority. Lieutenant Commander Sanjay Patel, her tactical officer, responded immediately. All ships report ready, Marshal. Stealth systems operating at optimal efficiency. Vrelian Harvester fleet has passed Mars orbit and continues on projected course toward Earth. Reynolds nodded, her green eyes never leaving the tactical display. And our embedded assets. Lieutenant Wei has successfully compromised the Proxima Centauri hub. Dr. Rodriguez reports Vrelian defense grid access achieved. Officer Mbeki awaits your command at Tau Ceti. She allowed herself a small, grim smile. Very well. Signal all ships. Operation Phantom Shield is now transitioning to Phase 3, Silent Strike. Authentication code, Reynolds Gamma Epsilon 9. Throughout the bridge, her crew worked with focused intensity. Unlike traditional military vessels, the Nemesis operated with minimal verbal communication, a practice developed to reduce electromagnetic emissions that might be detected by hegemony sensors. Instead, crew members relied on neural interfaces connected to Horus's tactical subnet. Marshal, Communications Officer Hiroshi Tanaka called out, breaking protocol. Priority message from Director Kapoor. Reynolds approached his station. Put it through, encrypted channel only. Kapoor's face appeared on a small screen, visible only to Reynolds. Marshal, we've intercepted new intelligence. The Vrelian fleet isn't just a resource assessment mission. They're carrying terraforming suppressors, the same technology they used on Mars Colony 3. Reynolds felt cold fury building behind her professional facade. Mars Colony 3 had been humanity's most successful off-world settlement until the Vrelians decided the planet was better suited for their own species. The terraforming accident that followed killed 12,000 colonists. Understood, she replied evenly. Timeline adjustments. Move immediately. The President has authorized full deployment of the Void Cascade system. Reynolds straightened. Acknowledged. Reynolds out. She returned to the command chair, interfacing with the ship's neural network. Through this connection, she could feel every aspect of the vessel, its weapons, engines, and defensive systems became extensions of her consciousness. New parameters, she announced to her bridge crew. The Vrelians plan to deploy terraforming suppressors on Earth. We intercept them now, before they reach lunar orbit. Lieutenant Commander Patel looked up sharply. Marshal, engaging before they reach the quarantine line will alert the entire hegemony to our capabilities. Better that than allowing them to poison our homeworld. Reynolds activated the fleet-wide communication system. All ships, this is Fleet Marshal Reynolds. Execute attack pattern Phoenix. I repeat, execute attack pattern Phoenix. Weapons free. Throughout the solar system, Earth's hidden fleet emerged from concealment. from behind Jupiter's moons, among Saturn's rings, within the asteroid belt, and even from Earth's own polar regions where advanced stealth technology had kept them hidden from hegemony observers. 27 warships revealed themselves simultaneously. The Nemesis itself accelerated from its hiding place, its massive antimatter engines propelling it toward Mars orbit where the Vrelian fleet would pass. On the Vrelian command ship Dominant Will, High Commander Zeltrix was the first to notice the anomalous readings. Before he could alert his crew, all systems aboard his vessel suddenly shut down, the result of carefully planted malware activated by Horus. In the darkness of his bridge, emergency lighting barely illuminating the confusion of his officers, Zeltrix witnessed an impossible sight through the viewing portal. A massive human warship materializing directly ahead, its obsidian hull absorbing what little light reached it. "Impossible," he whispered. "The humans possessed nothing like this." Their technology was centuries behind the Vrelians. Their military consisted of primitive orbital platforms and atmospheric fighters. Yet the evidence hung before him, undeniable and terrifying. Across the Vrelian fleet, similar scenes played out as Earth's warships appeared, surrounding them in a perfect formation that left no avenue of escape. Aboard the Nemesis, Reynolds watched the Vrelian fleet's disarray with cold satisfaction. Open communication channel to the Vrelian flagship. When the connection established, she stood tall. "This is Fleet Marshal Octavia Reynolds of Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is carrying weapons intended to damage Earth's biosphere. This constitutes an act of war under Article 7 of your own hegemony charter." The Vrelian commander's four eyes blinked rapidly in what humans had learned was their expression of shock. This is impossible. Earth has no defense force beyond its orbital security. "Your intelligence is outdated, Commander." Reynolds' voice was ice. "Your fleet will power down all weapons systems and prepare for boarding. Any resistance will be met with immediate and overwhelming force." To demonstrate her point, she nodded to Patel. "Target their escort vessel. Minimal yield." A beam of coherent energy, the revolutionary void cascade technology that Earth had developed in secret, lanced from the Nemesis toward the smallest Vrelian ship. Upon contact, the vessel's shields flickered and failed instantly, as if they never existed. The beam continued through, carving a precise hole through its command section. "That was 15% power," Reynolds informed the stunned Vrelian commander. "The next demonstration will be at 50%, directed at your flagship's life support systems." Throughout the solar system, Earth's other warships were executing similarly coordinated strikes. At the Proxima Centauri hub, Lieutenant Wei activated his sabotage device, giving Horus complete access to the hegemony's communication network. Within seconds, false reports flooded their command channels, reporting phantom human fleets appearing throughout hegemony space. On the Vrelian homeworld, Dr. Rodriguez's carefully planted algorithms caused their planetary defense grid to execute an emergency shutdown, leaving them vulnerable for the first time in centuries. At Tau Ceti, Officer Mbeki disabled the quantum relays, effectively cutting off an entire sector of hegemony space from rapid communication and reinforcement. Back on Earth, Director Kapoor watched the operations unfold on Sanctuary's strategic display. "Horus, status report on Silent Strike." "Strike operations proceeding at 94% efficiency," the AI responded. "Vrelian fleet neutralized. Hegemony command structure in disarray. Estimated time until coordinated response, 7 hours, 23 minutes. Kapoor nodded in satisfaction. "Activate Phase 4 protocols." Authorization, Kapoor Sigma Echo 3. Phase 4 activated, Horus confirmed. Deploying quantum communication disruptors to all designated coordinates. Hegemony fleet movement now restricted to sublight capabilities only. Colonel Okafor, watching from his station, shook his head in wonder. "They never imagined we could do this. All these years, they thought they were watching primitive creatures arguing among themselves." "Their greatest mistake," Kapoor replied, "was believing their own propaganda about us. They saw our conflicts as weakness, never understanding that struggle is what forged us. Every war, every crisis taught us to adapt, to overcome, to survive." On the main screen, the Vrelian fleet hung motionless, surrounded by Earth's warships. The message being broadcast to the galaxy was clear: humanity would no longer be subjugated. In the vastness of space, Earth's silent strike had begun, not with the chaos and noise the hegemony had come to expect from humans, but with precise, coordinated strategy that left their oppressors paralyzed. The revolution that would reshape galactic power had commenced, and it had done so with devastating efficiency. Part 2. Operation Phantom Shield. Director Nisha Kapoor moved silently through the underground facility beneath the Himalayan mountains. At 56, she carried herself with the measured precision of someone who had spent decades making life-or-death decisions. The facility, code-named Sanctuary, housed Earth's most classified defense project and its most powerful secret weapon, Horus. Security status? She asked, entering the central command chamber. Colonel Darius Okafor, the facility's security chief, stood from his workstation. His dark skin contrasted with the silver implant that replaced his left eye, a souvenir from a Jozari interrogation 5 years prior. All systems nominal, Director. Surveillance satellites report no unusual hegemony activity in system. They still think we're licking our wounds. Kapoor nodded, approaching the central holodeble where a shimmering blue orb pulsed gently. The artificial intelligence known as Horus, humanity's offensive response and unified strategy system. Horus, status report on Phantom Shield deployment, she commanded. The AI responded in a calm, gender-neutral voice. Phase 1 deployment at 87% completion. Stealth destroyers Vindication, Defiance, and Reclamation have reached their designated positions at hegemony jump points. Fleet Marshal Reynolds reports 0 detection events. Ecto-sensor networks remain unaware of our presence. Kapoor studied the tactical display showing Earth's covert fleet positions. For 3 years, they had built these ships in absolute secrecy, assembling them in fragments, using asteroid mining operations as cover. The hegemony had grown so comfortable in their superiority that they'd become blind to Earth's true capabilities. And the Nemesis? She asked. Holding position in the shadow of Saturn's moon Iapetus. All systems nominal. The facility door slid open as Commander Layla Hendricks entered, carrying a data tablet. Unlike most of Earth's military leadership, Hendricks had never served in conventional forces. She had been recruited directly from quantum engineering, her brilliant mind more valuable than any combat experience. Director, we've received the final component for the Void Cascade system, she reported. Dr. Takahashi has integrated it into the weapons platform. Testing shows 98.9% effectiveness against Vrelian shield technology. Kapoor allowed herself a tight smile. Excellent. And what of Project Lazarus? Commander Hendricks glanced nervously at Colonel Okafor before answering. The resurrection protocols are functioning as designed. If the hegemony attempts to deploy their planet-killer weapons against Earth, our dead man's switch will activate. Every major hegemony world will lose their orbital defense systems simultaneously. Colonel Okafor's expression darkened. It's still hard to believe we've come to this, planning for mutual destruction. We're planning for survival, Kapoor corrected. The hegemony has made it clear they consider us expendable. We're simply ensuring they understand that Earth is not to be sacrificed lightly. The holodeble chimed softly. Admiral Blackwood's image appeared, his expression grim. Director, the Security Council has reviewed your latest assessment. They've authorized the activation of Phase 2. Kapoor straightened. So soon? I expected at least another month of preparation. New intelligence came in an hour ago, Blackwood explained. The Vrelians are accelerating their plans for the Sol system. They've scheduled a resource assessment of Earth's remaining arable land. We all know what happened the last time they performed such an assessment on Venus. The room fell silent. Venus had once been a candidate for terraforming, until the Vrelians declared it a strategic resource repository and stripped it of elements useful for their empire, rendering terraforming impossible. When? Kapoor finally asked. 3 days. Their harvester ships are already en route. Commander Hendricks stepped forward. But the neural disruptors for Phase 2 aren't fully calibrated. If we deploy now. We deploy with what we have, Kapoor interrupted. Horus, initiate Phase 2 protocols. Authorization, Kapoor Omega 7 Delta. The AI pulsed brighter. Phase 2 initiated. Deploying autonomous defense platforms to designated coordinates. Activating dormant network nodes in hegemony communication relays. Colonel Okafor brought up a detailed map of Earth's solar system, now dotted with red indicators representing their hidden defenses. Once activated, We'll have precisely 47 minutes before the hegemony realizes their systems have been compromised. The element of surprise is critical. Then we make every second count, Kapoor stated firmly. Commander Hendricks, notify your teams. We're accelerating the timetable. As Hendricks hurried from the room, Blackwood's holographic image studied Kapoor carefully. Nisha, are we truly ready for this? Once we cross this line. They crossed the line when they decided our world was disposable. Farron. She gestured to a secondary display showing Earth's deteriorating ecosystems. We lose another 1,000 square kilometers of farmland every month. The Praxis technology could reverse it all, yet they withhold it while claiming to be our galactic guardians. Blackwood nodded solemnly. The President will address the United Earth Council at 0800 tomorrow. By then, I want our defensive grid fully operational. It will be done. After the Admiral's image faded, Kapoor turned to Okafor. Colonel, it's time to activate our sleeper agents. Okafor's cybernetic eye flickered as he processed the implications. All of them, even those embedded in the Hegemony Central Command. Especially those. Kapoor's voice was steel. Send the wake-up call. The Phoenix rises at dawn. Deep in space, aboard the massive Hegemony station orbiting Proxima Centauri, Lieutenant Marcus Way received the encrypted message during his routine maintenance shift. For 5 years, he had lived as a loyal technician servicing the station's communications array, earning the trust of his alien supervisors. He closed his eyes briefly, then calmly walked to his quarters. From beneath his bunk, he retrieved a small device disguised as a standard power cell. When inserted into the station's main control junction, it would create a backdoor into the Hegemony's entire defense network, a backdoor that Horus would exploit within seconds. Across the galaxy, similar agents received the same message. On the Vrelian homeworld, Dr. Jasmine Rodriguez prepared to sabotage the planetary shield generators. On the massive Ectos trading hub at Tau Ceti, Security Officer Trevor Mbeki ready to disable their quantum communication relays. Back at Sanctuary, Kapoor watched as signals began appearing on the strategic display, confirmation from each sleeper agent that their final missions were underway. They never saw us as equals, she said quietly to Okafor. They saw us as children, loud, disorganized, fractious children who needed guidance. They never realized that our history of conflict taught us something valuable that their ancient, stable civilizations had forgotten. What's that? Okafor asked. How to fight when everything is at stake. How to rise from our own ashes. She turned to face the pulsing form of Horus. How to transform desperation into power. The AI's light pulsed once, strongly, as if in agreement. Phase 2 deployment at 23% and accelerating, Horus announced. Estimated time to completion, 6 hours, 17 minutes. Kapoor nodded and activated the facility-wide communication system. All personnel, this is Director Kapoor. Operation Phantom Shield has entered Phase 2. This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. Throughout the facility, men and women who had trained for years in absolute secrecy moved with renewed purpose. Earth's silent resistance was about to become a thunderous declaration of independence. In the vacuum of space, invisible to hegemony sensors, Earth's Phantom Fleet continued its silent advance, the vanguard of a revolution that would reshape the galaxy. Part 4, Galactic Blockade. Colonel Darius Okafor stood in the command center of the Martian Defense Platform Vigilance, watching as the holographic display tracked Earth's rapidly expanding sphere of influence. 3 days had passed since Fleet Marshal Reynolds intercepted the Vrelian fleet, and humanity's carefully orchestrated plan was unfolding with mechanical precision. Status of Jump Point Alpha 7, he asked, his cybernetic eye scanning data faster than his human one ever could. Lieutenant Prisha Sharma, his tactical officer, responded promptly. Secured, sir. Reclamation and Defiance have established quantum dampening fields. No hegemony vessels can transit through. Okafor nodded, his expression revealing nothing of the turmoil within. For decades, he had dreamed of this moment, humanity finally breaking free of alien domination. Yet the speed and scale of their success had surprised even him. And the Ecto's response? Still confined to their home systems, Colonel. Their attempt to launch a counteroffensive failed when their fleet encountered our minefield at Tau Ceti. They've retreated to defensive positions. A communications officer interrupted. Sir, incoming transmission from Director Kapoor. Priority Alpha. Kapoor's image appeared on the central screen, her usual composed demeanor showing signs of strain. Colonel, the Galactic Hegemony Council has requested emergency dialogue. They're sending representatives to the neutral station at Proxima Centauri. Okafor raised an eyebrow. Representatives? Not a military response. It seems our demonstration has been persuasive. There was a ghost of satisfaction in her voice. Admiral Blackwood will lead our delegation. I want you to join him. Me. Okafor couldn't hide his surprise. Surely Ambassador Vargas is too closely associated with our previous diplomatic stance. We need someone who understands both our military capabilities and our strategic objectives. Her expression softened slightly. Besides, that cybernetic eye of yours tends to make aliens uncomfortable. That psychological edge may prove useful. Okafor unconsciously touched the silver implant that had replaced his left eye after Jozari interrogators had taken the original. Understood, Director. When do we depart? Immediately. The Retribution will escort you. As Kapoor's image faded, Okafor turned to his second-in-command, Major Eleanor Wilson. The young officer had distinguished herself during the Mars liberation, her tactical brilliance instrumental in reclaiming the colony without civilian casualties. Major, you have command of vigilance until my return. Maintain blockade protocols at all costs. Wilson saluted crisply. Yes, sir. Good hunting. Hours later, Colonel Okafor stood beside Admiral Blackwood as their shuttle approached the Proxima Centauri diplomatic station. Through the viewport, they could see the Retribution maintaining position nearby, its weapon systems prominently visible, a not-so-subtle reminder of Earth's new posture. Remember, Blackwood said quietly, we're not here to negotiate our position. We're here to state our terms. Okafor nodded. After 50 years of their guidance, I believe they owe us that courtesy. The diplomatic station was unusually quiet as they docked. The normally bustling corridors were empty save for security drones and a few nervous-looking hegemony officials who led them to the Grand Council chamber. Inside, representatives from 7 major hegemony species waited. The Vrelian delegate, High Arbiter Zoltrax, sat rigidly, his 4 eyes blinking in what Okafor now recognized as agitation rather than amusement. The Jozari representative, Chancellor Mreef, deliberately avoided looking at Okafor's cybernetic eye, a reminder of her species' brutal interrogation techniques. Admiral Blackwood, began Zoltrax, his translator rendering his clicking speech into flat standard English. The Hegemony Council recognizes Earth's demonstration of capabilities. We wish to discuss terms for de-escalation. Blackwood remained standing, declining the offered seat. This isn't a negotiation, High Arbiter. Earth has established a comprehensive blockade of all major hegemony transit points. Your faster-than-light communication networks have been compromised. Your military vessels are confined to their current sectors. He activated a holographic display showing the extent of Earth's control, red markers indicating Earth's warships strategically positioned throughout formerly hegemony-controlled space. For decades, your species have exploited humanity under the guise of guidance. You've restricted our technological development, harvested our resources, and interfered with our colonies. That ends today. Chancellor Mreef leaned forward, her iridescent scales catching the light. Admiral, surely you understand the hegemony cannot allow a single species to dictate terms to the galactic community. Okafor stepped forward, his cybernetic eye glowing faintly. Curious. That's precisely what the hegemony has done to Earth for the past 53 years. That was different, protested the Ecto's representative. Your species was volatile, unpredictable. We were protecting the galaxy. From what? Blackwood interrupted. From humans developing technology that might challenge your dominance? From Earth becoming truly independent. He placed a data crystal on the table. These are our terms. They are non-negotiable. The crystal projected its contents for all to see. Immediate withdrawal of all hegemony forces from the Sol system. Transfer of Praxis environmental restoration technology to Earth, with full implementation protocols. Recognition of Earth's sovereignty over all human colonies. Reparations for resources extracted from Earth territories. Earth's admission to the Hegemony Council with full voting rights. Zoltrax's translator couldn't quite capture the outrage in his voice. This is unprecedented. No emerging species as ever. We are no longer an emerging species, Okafor stated coldly. We have emerged. Your failure to recognize that reality is why we now control your jump points and communication networks. The chamber fell silent as the implications settled over the alien representatives. For millennia, the hegemony had maintained absolute control over interstellar affairs. Now, a species they had dismissed as primitive had systematically dismantled their power structure in less than a week. How long will this blockade continue? Asked the Centauri delegate, the first to recognize the inevitability of their situation. Until our terms are met, Blackwood replied simply. Every day of delay results in additional reparations requirements. You have 48 hours to provide preliminary acceptance. As they turned to leave, Chancellor Mreath called out, and if we refuse? Okafor paused, his cybernetic eye scanning each alien face in turn. Then Earth will permanently control all transit between your worlds. Your economies will collapse within months. Your unified governance will fracture under the strain. His voice softened dangerously. We learned division from our own history. We would be regretful to teach it to yours. Back aboard their shuttle, Blackwood allowed himself a small smile. They'll agree. They have no choice. Okafor nodded. Phase 5 is already in motion. Ambassador Vargas has contacted the independent worlds beyond hegemony space. Many have expressed interest in new alliances with Earth. And Horus reports that human sleeper agents throughout hegemony space stand ready to disable their remaining defenses if necessary, Blackwood added. The galaxy is reshaping itself, Colonel. As their shuttle returned to the Retribution, Earth's blockade continued unabated across the stars. What had begun as a desperate bid for survival had transformed into something more, a revolution that would forever change humanity's place in the cosmos.